and manipulation. Seeing technology inside their helmets. They're not any more psychic or telepathic than we are naturally, but they use technology and they wear these helmets. And Charles Hurd himself had described these kind of helmets as well. He's seen them wearing. He said that he called it electronic to aid in this kind of communication. But not only is it for communication, it's also for mental manipulation and what the beings themselves call mesmerization and memory alteration, which I've apologized to me about before, using it on me. What it means is that some of the experiences I have are involve me entering states that are unusual, where I might find myself, after I've been talking to one of them, kneel down and start moving objects around and lining them up in a sort of an obsessive kind of way. That's a recurring kind of mental state that they think to use on me as a kind of way of controlling me and moving me away as a threat sometimes. With mesmerization, it means also that they can convince you that they look like something else that they don't. They can produce an effect that's probably something like a doppelganger or something. You could use a word like that, where I've had experiences where I thought I've been talking to one person and it turns out I can't have them. For instance, one particular event, I was talking to my wife in the kitchen at night. And she was leaning against the kitchen bench, the counter, and I was standing opposite her on the other side of the table. We're getting along famously, but I can't remember what the substance of the conversation was. All of a sudden I started to feel a bit strange, and my mind started clouding over, and I knelt down. I started crawling out of the room, grabbing laundry, rolling up socks, lining them up in this sort of strange, deliberate kind of way. Found myself starting to levitate, was put back into my room over the top of my sleeping wife, who'd actually the whole time been in bed. They landed me back down onto the bed, put me back down to the bed, but I didn't actually lie down completely, and all of a sudden the control relinquished. So I had full control and I was fully awake. And then this kind of telepathic communication of the like that I was talking about in the forest when I was 21 and had that communication kind of event. A voice said, and it was a female voice as well, because that's an interesting point about this as well. It can be obvious when it's a female voice or a male voice, or sometimes it's neutral. She said, "We just had a date." And all of a sudden I felt adrenaline pumping up through me. I became incredibly frightened. Since then, I've never been so frightened interacting with them. I don't get that frightened anymore. Or frightened at all.
So she said, "We just had a date." We just had a date, meaning you just had a rendezvous.
Yeah, we just had a date. And now, to put this in context, I'd actually put out an invitation because I've been having incredible experiences of having tabletop procedures, like medical procedures, more typical kind of ET abduction events, with some drilling into the back of my skull and wandering around and checking my teeth and all this kind of stuff. These huge people with really long fingers, dressed in medical outfits with their faces, cover over their faces, hoods over the top of their heads, and the medics wear these black lenses over their eyes. So even though they normally have big blue eyes, the medics have something like a smart lens or something. So I've seen them take out, I've seen one with one in and they've still got another one out. But anyway, back to the other thing. So I'd sent out a message and said, instead of these kinds of strange clinical procedures, I don't know what they're for, but could someone come and visit me? You're welcome in my house anytime. Maybe we could have a beer together, or a cup of tea, or a coffee, or something like that. So I suppose it's almost a CE5. It's a human-initiated event that was, that seemed to instigate this visitation or date, she called it. So she said, we just had a date, and then I continued to be frightened, and I felt another shot of adrenaline go through me. And then she said, I roll my eyes at you. And I took that to be like a rebuke, like I should know better than to be that frightened, or something like that. And then I could hear someone walking through the house, the front door open, closing, and walking up the driveway. So then when I thought about what I'd seen, I could punch through what was a screen memory or something and see her for the way she was in my memory instead of the way I thought she had been. She was tall, easily 6 foot tall, white blonde hair, very big eyes, high cheekbones, tight black outfit with like a circular technology on her chest. And yeah, she'd been leaning there in the kitchen. But I suppose this might be where the idea about doppelgangers and things like that stem from. These kinds of manipulative technologies that can convince you of situations that aren't actually real. So this is kind of psychic play, or whatever you want to call it, these kinds of mesmerization. Sometimes it is an issue with trying to work out whether what you've seen, whether they actually look like that or not. Now, there's been other times where they've relinquished that kind of control of me, and I have actually been in their presence with what I take to be no mesmerization. Here at my house, and also away, taken at one stage in a situation that felt like a hospital, where they were scanning me and they showed me this scan that was supposed to be me but upside down, instead of like a green look to it. And they were saying to me, oh, there's not enough time yet for there to be any change, and I don't know what that meant. And there was no mesmerization, it was just totally real. And then they told me into the back of like an RV type craft, like a tic-tac, actually, because these days people will call them tic-tacs because of all the stuff in the media. But nowadays, but originally people usually refer to these kinds of crafts as like RVs. You know, like as you well know, George, the Gormans, like a student, and I can't remember their real name, sorry, but the Gormans are sitting like a ranch seeing these RV crafts. Charles Hall reporting RV crafts, like recreational vehicles that can levitate and piloted by giant, huge people, as they were skinwalker ranch as well. A craft like that. So occasionally I have interactions with them that are completely and totally vivid and real. Other times I have interactions with them that are in a way sort of dreamlike, although different again. And I'm fairly good, I think, at telling the difference between dreams and reality. I'm an accomplished lucid dreamer. I have been doing that all my life. And a lot of these interactions are of a kind that's just, it is uncategorizable to me. But now that they've explained ideas to me about mesmerization, I understand more.
So a central part of your thesis is looking back. You have a general idea, even though these things can change shapes and are deceptive at times, that you have a general idea about what they look like in an unguarded state. And so you went back through literature and lore, Gaelic, Irish, Scottish literature, looking for comparisons. And you found them of similarities in the forms. They had different names for them back in those days in different countries, fairies, elves, whatever, but essentially they're the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the Gaelic chieftain, or Uishlan, or the Gaelic elves or gentry, were a kind of fairy in Gaelic lore that was tall, fair, would float about on the horizon as a luminous blob of dust, like a will-o-wisp, lived in mountains and in hills, could exercise powers over your mind and use what people used to call in those days a glamoury, which would be akin to what we now think of as being mesmerization or screen memories and things like that.
Right.
People losing time from interacting with these beings. These beings as well whistled and chirped to themselves. This is a very, very close description. Those people who are familiar with the testimony of Charles Hall and his Millennial Hospitality memoir that I mentioned earlier on. This is a very close description to what Charles Hall called Paul White. And he coined that term. I think up until the point of his book coming out in the early 2000s, these kinds of beings would more usually have been referred to as Nordic. But post Charles Hall's book, Paul White is another term that's quite commonly used in mythology now.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So you think your basic description of these things, you accepted that Charles Hall, who wrote, I think, 5 books about the tall whites,
Yeah.
that's the central to your understanding of these beings and your interaction with them. Charles Hall wrote about being a weather observer for the U.S. Air Force here in Nevada for a time at Indian Springs, which is sort of in the part of the Nellis Range, but he was working out of there, and he claims to have had encounters with these beings. He traveled all over the Indian Springs and into the Nellis Range and had multiple encounters and has written about these things. I have never dug into that story. I know I've never tried to interview him. I don't have a real opinion on it. I know that story has been lurking out there, but I haven't really dug into it until I've read your book. So you think that Charles Hall sounds legit?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. He was, after I've been having a lot of experiences around 2013, 2014, and I became drawn to ufology. And then earlier in my life, I'd had a vague general interest in UFOs and ETs, but not really in an in-depth way. Just as a side interest occasionally, maybe at most. But after I had these interactions, I became very passionate, maybe the word's obsessed, with trying to work out what was happening to me. And looked into a couple of different cases, a couple of different claims of people. When I came across the Millennial Hospitality books, I was like, these are my dudes. It's an identical appearance, identical mind state described by Charles Hall, and he talks about how that interact with him, and his mind even phrased it like would cloud over with, and then he'd have missing time. And he'd try to regain memory sometimes as well by self-hypnosis and things, and I think he had limited success with that. I've tried that kind of thing myself with very limited success. But trying to regain some missing time here and there. But the chirping and barking languages of Charles Hall's tall white, I've heard them doing that myself. Charles Hall seems to believe that the chirping, barking, animal-like sounds that he heard from the tall whites were their real natural language. I personally disagree because I've heard them using those sounds, but I've also heard them using a language that sounds much more like our own Homo sapiens languages, but not. And that's what I was describing earlier with the sort of Japanese. That's the closest thing I can think of. The tall white experience of Julio Fernandez that was abducted in Spain in 1978 in a Korea incident. He was taken aboard a craft by tall, fair beings that inspected him and his dog. And he described, as a wonderful description that's in some of the Flying Saucer review magazines, I think I found it. This is probably going to go in my second book. I'll put this patent. It's not actually in the book that I've written yet. But he has a wonderful description of their language and talks about how there's sort of like coughing, barking sounds, whistling, but also the sound, the thing sounded like a cross between maybe German and Chinese. He said German for its guttural features, Chinese for its monosyllabic nature. And then when he heard some samples of world languages later on, he said, oh, maybe Korean is the closest sounding. And he describes perfectly the way I've heard them speak as well, which again, I'll repeat that that's what the Sierra sounds are. I'm absolutely 100% convinced. But for those people who are interested in listening to those Sierra sounds and finding them online and listening to them, that's the full way. But, and interestingly, I've just added as a side that I had a yarn with Ron Moorhead about this. The guy who recorded the Sierra sounds. And Al Berry and Ron Moorhead recorded them. And I said, what do you think? And he's not going to mind me repeating this because he's on record saying this anyway when David Politis interviewed him for Missing Paul and on The Hunted. He says he doesn't know what was making the sound. He could hear them, but he couldn't see them. All he knows is that they had big heads. So, anyway, so the Charles Hall thing definitely the same people that I know. Now Charles Hall himself, he didn't know where they were from. he said he would ask them about that kind of thing and they were evasive. The idea that they might have been originally from Earth didn't occur to him. He presumed them to be extrasolar aliens. He suspected, and it was nothing more than a suspicion, that they might have been from after systems. And he had a couple of reasons for thinking that. One of them was looking through the other lights that he used to measure the balloons going across the sky for the wind measurement. And when he went to look through it, it was pointed at Arcturus. So there were a couple of little clues he thought that they might be from Arcturus. But he actually did not know, and he's on record clearly in his book saying that. Now, they're from here, but they have spent considerable time in Orion. And there's a case about just a tall white. They're not very tall, the beams, but it is a tall white case nonetheless. The tall whites take a long time to grow. Beams are about 5 foot high, but nonetheless they bark, like Charles Hall described tall whites as doing. Big blue eyes, fair blonde hair. The Antonio Villas Boris case from Brazil. There was a sign. There was what he took to be hieroglyphs above the door to the craft, and this is one of many references in many different cases to Orion's belt. So the hieroglyphs that are writing in the craft, lines and marks and swells, and 3 dots that conform to the layout of Orion's belt, which on its own could very easily be a coincidence. But when you take it, when you consider it along with evidence from other cases where the suggestion also is that they're from Orion's belt, it becomes more compelling. But yeah, definitely the same guys. And also Peter Curry's interaction.
That's a good story. We'll come back to that. We've got to go to a break, Ryan. We'll come back to the story of Peter Corey because there is some physical evidence that goes along with that. Talking with Ryan Musgrave Evans about Children of Orion, Finding the Crypto-Terrestrials, really interesting book. We're going into the break with The Temptations. Trouble and cause a ruckus is to tell the truth. We know firsthand. You actually don't get much trouble for making things up. You get in trouble when you tell the truth. John and Ken, weekdays 2 to 6 on Kfi.
The Delta variant is making COVID-19 spread faster and more easily. Variants can be more contagious, aggressive, and deadly. But we know vaccines work. Vaccinated Californians have greater protection against serious illness, hospitalization, and death. We can help stop the spread and end this pandemic. Get vaccinated and wear a mask when it can protect you and others. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health. 42 million Americans struggle with hunger, yet 35% of the food in this country is wasted. Those aren't just numbers, they're our neighbors, your daughter's friend from school, a family of 4 next door. The Kroger Company's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation is committed to making fresh food accessible to all by ensuring it never goes to waste. Together, we can help end hunger.
Learn more at zerohungerzerowasteffoundation.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-571-1986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at tra.com or call 800-571-1986. That's 800-571-1986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people. John and Ken. Afternoons.
KFI and KOST HD2, Los Angeles, Orange County. It's time for your morning wake-up call. And now, here's Jennifer Jones-Lee.
So how was your weekend? Cooler. Nice. Get a lot of stuff done outside. That was my plan. I got stuff done-ish. Maybe not as much as expected, but hey, I slept a little more than I expected to, so sue me. Felt great. By the way, if you haven't checked out my Instagram, I am that mom. It was Dolly's 1-year birthday. So I got that 80-pound puppy in a tutu. Damn right I did. There was a birthday cake, and a candle, and a party, and dog ice cream, a little thing around her neck that said birthday girl, and I tried to get her to wear a princess crown. That didn't go so well. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You can check it out on my Instagram, JJLKFI. Because, again, I am that mom. Here's what's just ahead on your wake-up call. LA County health officials say they are seeing a continuing downward trend in COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Economists say they are now expecting slower economic growth this year because of the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. And the family and friends of Gabby Petito have held a memorial service to honor the 22-year-old in her hometown on Long Island. 5:05, we'll talk with ABC's Karen Travers. It is crunch time when it comes to the president's $1 trillion infrastructure bill this week, but the president says he's confident that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has the votes to pass it. What makes him so confident? What happens if it doesn't pass? I think it will, but just on the off chance it doesn't, what's next? All that's coming up with Karen in just a few minutes. So let's start with some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. LA County health officials say they're seeing a continuing downward trend in COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. They say higher vaccination rates and safety precautions at Labor Day celebrations helped avert the usual increase in cases after major holidays. Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer says it doesn't mean people should be complacent because the virus still poses very real risks. Public health officials say they've identified more than 200 COVID-19 outbreaks at police or fire agencies across LA County since the start of the pandemic. The LA Times says it has data that show the outbreaks have continued regularly, even though vaccination rates have increased among police and fire personnel. A team of investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board is at the site of that Amtrak derailment in Montana. ABC's Rena Roy says the accident over the weekend killed 3 people and put 7 others in the hospital.
The train headed from Chicago to Seattle with more than 150 people on board when it took a deadly turn near the town of Joplin.
Amtrak officials say the section of track where the crash happened was inspected less than a week ago. A documentary by the New York Times has made new allegations about Britney Spears and her conservatorship. ABC's Megan Trevisan says the documentary Controlling Britney Spears alleges the pop star's father hired a security company, Black Box, that bugged her room and tracked her text messages and phone calls.
In response to the allegations in the documentary, a lawyer for Black Box telling ABC News that the company and its president have always conducted themselves within professional, ethical, and legal bounds.
Spears' lawyer says claims about putting a listening device in Britney's bedroom backs up a lot of her testimony. Authorities are investigating the deaths of a woman and her 2-year-old son who fell from Petco Park's 3rd floor onto the sidewalk in San Diego. Now, here's the weird part. Police say the deaths on Saturday appear to be suspicious. There's a witness who told a local TV station that the woman jumped. The TV station also said the woman's husband has been questioned. Well, gun shows at the OC Fairgrounds are one governor's signature away from running out of ammo.
Gun shows will be over at the Orange County Fairgrounds if Governor Newsom signs a bill from Senator Dave's men by October 10th. The fair has been hosting gun shows since the 90s, bringing in millions of dollars and attracting tens of thousands of people each year. The fair board briefly considered approving a bunch of gun show contracts before the bill would potentially go into effect, but Thursday that idea was voted down. Senator Min says taxpayer-owned fairgrounds should be for families, not the sale of firearms that endanger safety. In Orange County, Corbin Carson, KFI News.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk with ABC's Karen Travers. It is crunch time for the president's $1 trillion infrastructure bill, but he seems pretty confident that House Speaker Pelosi has the votes. And also coming up, I'll tell you why I owe Matt Stafford an apology.
Sounds like
A big apology. And an apology that comes with a, I won't do that again, Matt. Hi, Nick Paliokini. What's up on the 91?
Good morning, Jen. It is going to be a mess first thing this morning for you. Always seems to be the 91. Now it's going to be getting out of Riverside to the Corona area. 91 westbound past McKinley. A couple of cars got into it, and one of them seems to be still partially blocking the left lane, and that's why you're seeing a busy drive. First thing this morning, westbound 91 from before Los Sierras. You make your way toward McKinley. Further westbound on the 91 to Corona, just going to see a smidgen of slowing as you head toward Main Street, and then further westbound on the 91 Green River toward the 241 toll road. Looks to be pretty busy for your drive. And that's it on this, or anything else slowing you down. Pound 250 on the cell phone. Keyword is KFI traffic. Otherwise, looking pretty good for your drive as you make your way through Orange County and LA County. Knock on wood, most Caltrans projects are wrapping up so far. KFI and the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Nick Paliokini.
5:06 on your wake-up call. Karen Travers, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
So let's talk about the president's $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. He seems confident that House Speaker Pelosi has the votes.
Yeah, he said that yesterday. He said after he got back from Camp David, he said, I'm optimistic about this week, but said it's going to take the better part of the week, which it certainly will. Today, the House will begin debate on that $1 trillion infrastructure plan that passed the Senate, that already has cleared there. So now he wants to move forward in the House to get to the president for his signature. But there is a big debate between progressive Democrats and moderate Democrats, because progressives, who hold enough sway and enough votes that they could sink this, they say they're not voting for the bipartisan $1 trillion plan right now until they know that there's about to be a vote on the second infrastructure package, which has not yet been finished, which is why there's no vote yet for that. That's about $3.5 trillion. That includes funding for child care, education, climate action, healthcare, things like that.
Oh,
Debating today on the $1 trillion bill. Yes.
oh, we lost you just for a second. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Just giving you the rundown of the week. We got today, they will start debating the $1 trillion bipartisan package and then vote on that on Thursday. Nancy Pelosi said over the weekend, we're going to pass the bill this week. And she also said, I'm never bringing a bill to the floor that doesn't have the vote. So that's circled right now on the calendar for Thursday. Let's see where things go over the next few days. If that vote stays and they do move forward, that means she thinks she has the vote. As of right now, though, doesn't seem like they're there.
Okay, but that's Thursday, and that would be the 30th
That's
of
Thursday.
September. But wasn't this supposed to happen today?
It was scheduled, circled, kind of penciled in for today. So the fact that it is now happening Thursday indicates as of today they don't have the votes there. But they think they could get them before Thursday because there's going to be frantic and serious negotiations on that Part 2, the second infrastructure plan. The president last week met with progressives, he met with moderates, he met with leadership, and the big thing was, what's the number everybody can live with? What's the price tag that everybody can live with and still include the priorities that the Democratic Party wants to get to? We don't know what the answer is yet to that. It's Monday. Hopefully we'll know by Thursday.
This is a crunch week for the Biden administration because you've also got, the debt ceiling looming, and you've got the government shutdown possibly.
It's incredible. I mean, anybody thinks their to-do list is pretty big for this week. Congress is like, here we go. I got a better one. Infrastructure, government funding, at least punting that till December by maybe doing a short-term government funding bill before the end of the week, and also the debt ceiling that needs to be increased, that credit limit for the government, by sometime in mid-October. They've got a little bit of wiggle room on that in the sense that the deadline isn't the end of this week. But, the Democrats wanted to try and cross two things off the list at the same time by doing government funding all tied together with the debt ceiling. Republicans are not on board with that and say, you know what, go ahead and pass it yourselves then. If you guys control the House, the Senate, and the White House, so look for some more maneuverings this week on the spending bill, just to keep the trains running on time and government open after Thursday, and also the debt ceiling.
All right, well, I'm sure that there are bazillion spouses like me who also are looking at this as a please keep the government funded so my husband gets a paycheck.
Absolutely. A lot of people out there remember how bad that was a couple years ago, and that nobody wants to repeat that.
No, exactly. All right, Karen, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thanks.
See you later. You too. ABC's Karen Travers. I know, I said to Scott, we're supposed to go on vacation, not this week, next week. And I said to him, should we be saving money for the next couple of weeks because are you going to get paid? And he goes, oh, that's right. And I thought, oh, God, oh, that's right. Anyway, he seems confident. I'm just going to go with that. Just close my eyes and go with FEMA boy being confident. And my fingers crossed. And my toes crossed. Get back to some of the stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. The family and friends of Gabby Petito have held a memorial service to honor the 22-year-old in her hometown on Long Island. Gabby's stepfather, Jim Schmidt, says the loss of his stepdaughter is immeasurable.
Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. This is not how life is supposed to work.
The memorial was held yesterday afternoon. Police are continuing the search for Petito's boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, who hasn't been seen for about 2 weeks. Now, the headline on CNN this morning is that the FBI has gone back to Brian Laundrie's home to collect what they are calling DNA matching items. Don't know what those are, but they are looking for DNA matching items. Does that mean there was some sort of DNA that they were able to recover on Gabby Petito? Who knows? But we'll see. We're going to talk more about this with ABC's Jim Ryan coming up at 5:35. Firefighters say they're getting the upper hand on a forest fire near Shasta Lake in Northern California. They say lighter winds and cooler temps are slowing the fire as it moves away from populated areas north of Redding. The fire, which is thought to have been started by a woman who's been charged with arson, has destroyed at least 130 homes. It's burned more than 8,500 acres and is 45% surrounded. All right, Matt Stafford, here is why I owe you an apology. In my football pool last week, I chose the Buccaneers over the Rams. And what did you say to me yesterday? Oh, really? You chose the Buccaneers over us, did you? I know, I think you flipped me the bird somewhere along the way. The Rams beat the defending Super Bowl champ Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their NFL game at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. LA won yesterday's game 34-24. The Rams are now 3-0 on the season. And, Tampa Bay, that's the Tom Brady and the Gronkowski. And Matt Stafford said, I'm sorry, you're who? Anyway, you did great yesterday. Am I helping myself? No? Okay. Economists now say they're expecting lower and slower economic growth this year because of the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. A survey by the National Association of Business Economists found its panel expects full-year economic growth to be 5.6%. That's down from a forecast of 6.7% in May, but economists say they think the economy will improve next year as more people get vaccinated. Well, a child care specialist says daycare centers across the U.S. are at a crisis point because thousands have had to close during the pandemic. CEO of the Hausman Institute, Dr. Donna Hausman, says it's caused a massive shortage of daycare teachers.
Child care system has been broken for a long time, long before the pandemic. And faced with COVID-19, an already fragile childcare system has been shattered.
Dr. Hausman says the childcare field has been dealing with some major obstacles for years, including poor pay and a lack of professional development offered to staff.